Welcome to Brian360 and welcome to my top 10 list of things to do in St. Maarten, including both the Dutch side and the French side. We are standing at Maho Beach at the foot of the runway of Princess Juliana International Airport for number 10, the airplanes at Maho Beach. Now this list is in no particular order, and keep in mind that it is compiled by someone who looks like this. And no longer looks like this. So, if you're looking for the best spots to go for a rave and dance until 4 a.m., this probably isn't the best video for you. That being said, however, there are lots of amazing things to see on this island. As we're watching this plane come in, I should add that every entry on this top 10 list has other full-length videos going into much greater depth if you would like to check those out. One of the most photographed and videoed locations in the Caribbean, this airport has airplanes flying dangerously close over the tourists' heads as they land at the airport. The big boys arrive around noon for about an hour and a half, including planes from Air France, KLM from the Netherlands, and several from the United States and Canada. Check out the Princess Juliana International Airport website for the schedule of arrivals and departures. Throughout the day, smaller planes arrive, including those of Win Air that serve the nearby islands. The airplanes generally arrive over the beach and take off in the other direction, which results in this bizarre behavior of willingly being blasted by, well, jet blast. There are warnings posted for good reason. Hold on to your hat, wear some sunglasses, and brace yourself for the strongest wind you've experienced. Of course, every plane that lands must eventually take off, and this is one of the rare planes taking off over the beach. Here we are on the other side of the runway at Maho Beach, and this brings us to number 9, the beautiful beaches of St. Maarten. Now, granted, this isn't the nicest beach in the world. You want to stay away from those rocks. There are some much nicer beaches in the area, and my favorite just happens to be a short 10-minute walk from Maho Beach. During that 10-minute walk, you'll find plenty of shops and restaurants, as well as hotels, a grocery store, a pharmacy, and a casino. And for some reason, should you like golfing, especially in the Caribbean sun, this is where the golf course on St. Maarten is located. And here we are. We have arrived at my favorite beach in St. Maarten, on the Dutch side, Maho Beach. Starting at the south end of Maho Beach, the waves are usually calm here. A perfect place for kids, although it can be a little bit choppy sometimes. The white sand beaches and beautiful clear blue water that are found throughout the island are on amazing display at Maho Bay. With 3 restaurants along the beach, as well as the restaurants and shops that we passed by on the way here, Maho Bay is the perfect place to spend a day and enjoy the sun, sand, and water of the Caribbean. With an area of just 34 square miles, St. Maarten boasts 37 beaches. Being from Canada and the metric system, it should really be 37 beaches to 95 square kilometers, but 37 beaches to 34 square miles sounds much better. A 10-minute walk along the beach brings you to the north end, where, after a short climb up this rocky area, you have a nice view back on the rest of the beach. On Mullet Bay Beach, you are not far from the airport, where you can see the small planes circle over the beach as they make their final approach, or you can watch the big planes come in from the south end of the beach. A word of caution when going to the beach in the Caribbean. This coming from a man who has the same melanin count as Casper the Friendly Ghost. Wear sunscreen, and a hat and sunglasses. Remember, I look like this. And finally, at the south end of the beach, amongst the rock, is a good place for snorkeling. In addition to Mullet Bay Beach, there is a lot of good snorkeling throughout St. Maarten, as well as scuba diving. If you are not licensed to scuba dive, you can take a course, or if you need to finish off your certification, there are dive shops that will complete your training. Continuing on with the beautiful beaches of St. Maarten, now let's go to my favorite beach on the French side, Yellow Beach on Pinel Island. Part of the adventure of Pinel Island is the short ferry ride to get there. The ferry ride is only about 10 minutes long and has some very nice scenery on the way. And during that ferry ride, keep your eyes open, and you might just see a sea turtle. Once you have arrived on Pinel Island, there's a short walk to Yellow Beach. Once you're there, you will find a small, quiet, and beautiful beach. The nice thing about this beach is that there is some scenery when you look out from the shore. Similar to Mullet Bay Beach, there is some excellent snorkeling off amongst the rock and coral on the left side of this image. There is no place to rent a mask, fins, or snorkels, so remember to bring your own. There are 2 restaurants on Pinel Island and not much else, so remember to bring your sunscreen, some water, and some snacks. I said that there was not much else on Pinel Island, but that was a dirty, dirty lie. Very close to the beach, there is also a nice area to hike, which offers up some incredible views, looking back to the south at the main island of St. Maarten. To fully enjoy this hike, I would give yourself about half an hour to take your time and enjoy these amazing views. If you are visiting St. Maarten for the day as part of a cruise, then you have no choice but to see entry number 7 on the list, which is Philipsburg, the capital of the Dutch side, as this is where your ship will dock. It sounds like a punishment. You have no choice but to see Philipsburg. In reality, you definitely want to see Philipsburg, whether you have to or not. If you arrived in St. Maarten by airplane, Philipsburg is a short drive away, so plan to make a day of it. We start off on the boardwalk, where you can spend some of your time on Great Bay Beach before visiting the many restaurants and shops on the boardwalk, Front Street, and Back Street. As always, you can expect beautiful blue water and amazing scenery in Philipsburg. If you are visiting by cruise ship, this is one of the locations where your water taxi will drop you off and pick you up. Should you have a burning desire to spend some money while visiting Philipsburg, then the store owners on Front Street and Back Street would be more than happy to help you. Running parallel to the boardwalk, Front Street is a great place for jewelry, electronics, high-end clothing, duty-free alcohol and cigars, and souvenirs. And if you really want to spend some money, there is a casino. One street over on Back Street is where you'll find mostly clothing and athletic wear stores, a music store, as well as souvenir shops. Should you want to see other parts of the island, then here, directly across from the courthouse, is where you will find many taxis and buses that will take you there and get you back before your cruise ship leaves without you. This spot is very close to the water taxi area, just through those palm trees we saw a short time ago. If you still have money after your visit to Philipsburg and you are staying in St. Maarten for an extended period, then you might want to consider number 6, island hopping. As we saw with entry number 10, St. Maarten can accommodate large airplanes at Princess Juliana International Airport. However, some of the islands adjacent to St. Maarten do not have that luxury, only able to accept smaller planes and ferries. Here we are making our final approach to land at the shortest commercial runway in the world, located on the island of Saba. Located centrally to the nearby islands of Anguilla, St. Bartholomew or St. Bart's, and Saba, ferries or airplanes from St. Maarten make these islands perfectly suitable for a day trip or for a short overnight stay. The quick 12-minute flight to Saba brought us to the island also known as the Unspoiled Queen of the Caribbean. We arrived around 8 o'clock in the morning, and we're on our way back to St. Maarten before 5 in the evening. We packed a lot into that day, including climbing to the top of Mount Scenery, the highest point in the Kingdom of the Netherlands. This is what you'll see once you get to the top. It was well worth the hour-and-a-half climb to get there. Here is a view from what is called the road that couldn't be built. We drove around as much of the island as we could, including stops at Wells Bay and the tide pools of Cove Bay, right beside the airport. In previous years, we have visited Anguilla and St. Bart's by ferry, but unfortunately that was before I had my 360 video camera, so I have no footage of that. They are both very nice islands and definitely worth the trip. There are several other islands in the area that the local airline, Win Air, will fly to. So if you have the time and the money, island hopping is a fun way to add to your vacation to St. Maarten. A short drive from Philipsburg is a fun excursion, especially if you have young kids, or in my case, teenagers. Number 5 is the Parotte Bird Sanctuary. As part of your admission, you will receive a cup full of seeds that the resident birds are more than happy to relieve you of. In addition to landing on your cup for food, some of the birds will land on your shoulders, heads, and might even leave you a souvenir, one that you don't necessarily want.
Oh, you got a souvenir.
That's an El Homie.
The variety of birds here is amazing, with colors representing every part of the rainbow. On your visit here, you will be visited by parrots, parakeets, conures, cakes, and other types of birds whose names I do not know, unfortunately. If you're in Philipsburg for the day as part of a cruise, this is a nice quick addition to the beach and shopping of Philipsburg. If you're in St. Maarten for an extended stay, then you have plenty of time to visit Parotte Bird Sanctuary. Plan on spending at least half an hour here, and don't forget to take lots of pictures and videos. And make sure a bird doesn't poop on your shoulder. But if it does, take pictures and videos. It's a great souvenir, just ask my son. We have seen the capital of the Dutch side, Philipsburg. Now for number 4, we visit the capital of the French side, Marigot. If you are visiting for just a day and want to experience a tale of two cities, you can definitely visit both Philipsburg and Marigot. Just keep an eye on the time so your cruise ship does not leave without you. When you are in Philipsburg, you feel like you are visiting a Caribbean island, obviously, but it has many familiar things to a Canadian or American tourist. Although the official language for government purposes is Dutch, everyone speaks English. The American dollar is widely accepted, and restaurants like McDonald's, Burger King, and Domino's remind us of home. However, for a very different experience, the French side is, well, very technically French, as it is a collectivity of France. So, should you not want to take a flight across the Atlantic, you can tell your friends that you visited France if you visit Marigot. People will address you in French first, with a bonjour, quickly followed with a hello, especially if you look confused. Although the American dollar is accepted, the euro is more widely used. French clothing stores, restaurants, and bakeries definitely make you feel like you are in France, which, as I said, you are. Although Rue de Général de Gaulle is not a very long street, if measuring in distance, if measuring in time, this can be a very long street indeed. I left my family several stores ago and figured I would forge ahead on my own if I wanted to make a video. I must admit that shopping for clothes is not really my thing. Coming from a guy who buys half of his clothes from Costco and the other half from heavy metal concerts, I guess that's not saying much. Fashion is kind of lost on me. But if I did like fashion, this would be a pretty cool place to shop. Especially this next store, simply called Undies. I buy my undies from Costco as well. On the left is the Marigot Market, where you can find plenty of souvenirs, jewelry, and clothing. There are several restaurants along this street as well. Should you wish to island hop for the day, on the left is where you will pick up the ferry that takes you to Anguilla or St. Bart's. Looking straight ahead, you will notice a mountain. This is foreshadowing. My English teacher would be so proud of me. We'll get to that mountain in a minute. Driving can be a little bit hectic in Marigot, but when you have a wife who gets carsick unless she is driving, you get the advantage of being a passenger. My wife knows these streets well, so she does a very good job navigating through Marigot and the rest of the island. Signage is not great on the French side or the Dutch side, so if you're not familiar with the island, it helps to have a navigator looking at a map on a phone to assist the driver. Roundabouts are common. Just remember, the vehicle on the inside has the right of way. Coming up on the right is the West Indies Mall, should you want to go into a very expensive mall. But it's air-conditioned and there are public washrooms. So there's that. Finally, coming up on the left is the marina, which is a very good place to park your boat, should you arrive in St. Maarten by sea. And we will get a very nice look of the marina in about 30 seconds, again foreshadowing. So, for a very different experience and to enjoy the French culture of St. Maarten, a visit to Marigot is a must and an unforgettable experience. Now, I did mention foreshadowing when I talked about the mountain from the street below, and here is the view from that mountain. Coming in at number 3 on the list, Fort Louis. Overlooking and protecting the town of Marigot, this fort gives a visitor an incredible view of the marina, the town, and the surrounding hills. Built in 1789, its role was to protect Marigot from its European rivals of Great Britain and Spain. Earlier in this video, I mentioned the island of Anguilla, which was colonized by the British and is the closest island to St. Maarten. There's nothing better than several cannons pointed out over the harbor to ensure that your neighbors remain somewhat peaceful. I'm standing at the top of the ruins of Fort Louis with my 3-meter selfie stick extended as far as I can get it for this incredible view. And in my opinion, this is one of the best views that you'll get on the entire island. Visiting Fort Louis is free, and the only real obstacle is climbing the many stairs that bring you to the fort. Visiting does not take much time, and it is certainly worth it for the view and the photos and videos that will serve as a reminder of your trip to Marigot and Fort Louis. The very first time I visited St. Maarten about 23 years ago, my future father-in-law drove my future wife and me, a future old man, around the island for number 2 on our list, an island tour. St. Maarten is a hilly island, and the roads have many twists and turns that will surprise you with what they reveal. At this point, if you have driven around the island to visit some of the other entries on this list, then you have done somewhat of an island tour. If you are visiting for an extended period, then purposefully checking out the many impressive views St. Maarten has to offer is well worth the time. Here we are on the French side, passing the second airport on St. Maarten, Grand Pas l'Espérance Airport. With a smaller runway, it is not equipped to accommodate the large international flights like Princess Juliana International Airport on the Dutch side can. However, for smaller trips, for island hopping, or maybe you have a private jet, then this might be the airport for you. Renting a car or borrowing your in-laws' car, thank you in-laws, gives you the flexibility to drive and get lost, and there is some joy in that. Here we are on the Dutch side in Kupakoi, about to cross over into the French side. It's not a very big sign, but there it is. Now we're on the French side. Returning to the Dutch side near the Simpson Bay Causeway is a more impressive monument. It's a little easier to see like this. There are other options to driving around in your own car or a bus or taxi. Different companies offer island tours where they do the driving. They stop at various points in the island and allow you to see as much as you can, especially if you're here for just one day. And here is an impressive roundabout near Princess Juliana International Airport. A variation to the guided driving tour is a sailing tour, where you stop at various beaches and can get out to swim, snorkel, or enjoy the beach. For the more adventurous, you can hop on an ATV, a UTV, which looks more like a dune buggy to me, or a jeep for a guided tour of the island. If you want to see St. Maarten from the water, you can rent a mini speedboat or take a romantic sunset cruise. Just be aware, these tours can be very expensive, and you just might be better off doing it on your own if that's an option. If driving on your own, just remember, plenty of roundabouts. The vehicle on the inside has the right of way. And now we have finally arrived at number 1. With a bit of irony and a plot twist for that English teacher I'm still trying to impress. Simply put, and not specific to St. Maarten, make new friends, enjoy new experiences, and make incredible new memories. When I'm back home in Canada, I listen to a St. Maarten radio station called Laser 101. It helps me remain connected to the island and helps trick me into feeling like I'm on vacation sometimes. As well, the guys on the radio are absolutely hilarious and help me keep my sanity while at work. So I figured I would reach out to them for their Question of the Day segment and ask listeners to recommend some things a tourist should see in St. Maarten. To my surprise, Supa Dupa, the host of the Supa Dupa Morning Show, invited my family and me to join them. And that's what you're seeing here. We chatted on the radio for about 20 minutes. There's Supa Dupa on the right, Big Homie Spoon in the middle, and G-Money on the left. And there in the corner is SMG. It was a little tough getting everybody into one shot, even with the 360 camera. So, thank you to everyone at Laser 101 and Philipsburg Broadcasting for giving us this unique souvenir. As a Canadian, I felt compelled to bring some maple syrup, and that's what the guys are holding up in the photo. Here is Jackie.
Hi, everyone. Yes, as he said, my name is Jackie.
I was even more surprised when Jackie, one of the Laser 101 listeners, invited us to her home to learn how to make journey or Johnny cakes and a few other Caribbean dishes. St. Maarten is known as the Friendly Island, but this was going above and beyond. I have 2 videos of our time with Jackie, should you wish to make some Caribbean dishes.
Why are you guys running ahead?
And finally, the whole point of going on vacation is to have fun and make lasting memories. That was the whole point of me getting my 360 camera, to record moments so I can watch them back in the future. That then morphed into my YouTube channel as a convenient way to store my videos so I can watch them on my VR headset. This is us climbing up Mount Scenery in Saba.
Sweat meter. This is 20 minutes into the walk.
If you recall, this is our ferry ride to Pinel Island. One of the advantages of a 360 camera is that it records in all directions and sometimes surprises you with what it captures. Remember that sea turtle? Well, my daughter absolutely loves sea turtles. While I was focusing on trying to record the turtle in the water, my camera recorded my daughter's response. And as a dad, this is absolutely priceless. To wrap up, I hope I have convinced you to visit St. Maarten. And if you are planning a visit, I hope you see some of the highlights. There are plenty of other things to see on the island that we didn't have time to do, so maybe there will be a top 10 part 2 in the future. Above all, if you have the time and the money, which I, like many other people, always feel short of, then go on a vacation, whether it's to St. Maarten or somewhere else. You can spend your money on a fancy house, cars, jewelry, and clothes, but it will never be more valuable than the memories you make with your loved ones. Thank you very much for watching, and now go out and make some memories.